Welcome back to another video. This time it's about the nostalgia shell swap on the Mambo, and the great thing about the nostalgia is that it not only will forgive for any less decent spray paint jobs, it also does look unique and awesome at the same time. Plus, when spray painting from the inside, you won't need to add a final clear coat, which makes the whole thing a lot easier in my opinion. I'd say difficulty wise it's a 2 out of 5 on the Bartwell scale. There's 3 things I want to share with you before we jump into the swap montage. First thing I want to mention is the type of spray paint you use. Go for acrylic, that's the way to go here, not acetone because of the plastics. Second tip here, do yourself a favor and mask off a few things. I didn't have to spend quite some time on scraping off stuff, so I'd type off the posts, the battery compartment, the shoulder button areas and various edges. And number 3, make yourself a cup of tea before you get to the switch nuts, because it's the only annoying part, but it's super annoying nonetheless. Alright, I of course started with spray painting the shell, just gave it enough paint to cover all the surface because it was aiming to paint it white, but still keep that frosty look. And while the shells were drying outside, I went on to disassemble the Mambo. It starts off real easy, the back is held in place by just 4 screws. Remove the 2 rubber grips and then grab a 1.5mm and remove the 16 pictured screws in the back. I didn't know better and removed 18. The additional 2 were the ones that hold the shoulder buttons. Don't forget to pull out the speaker cable, and the PCB is almost free. Now, hello annoying part of removing the switch nuts. As I had no tool, I would recommend to use 2 flat screwdrivers. Be careful not to slip and scratch the shell though. You don't need to remove the knobs, just leave them as they are. Gently push the PCB out and make sure to not damage the flat display cable or their battery cable. Unscrew the little plastic bar that holds the display part in place and detach the flat cable. For the removal of the display, I used a hairdryer to soften the glue. I did that to both sides and then used a prop to carefully remove it. In the meanwhile, the shell has dried and we can start to transplant things. Now, this I would have done differently. I would suggest to keep the inner part of the adhesive pad, because if one corner catches onto something and it's not straight, it would be annoying to fix. Okay, let's put the screen back in. Next step would be to install those little gimbal frames. They are not identical, so watch out for the little plastic nose on each. Now it's time for the power button, followed by the speaker unit. By the way, the Mambo Nostalgia already comes with a spare speaker unit, unlike T2 Nostalgia. Grab a soldering iron and melt those little pins of the gimbal thingies and the button set as well. Then put the LCD back in, reattach the little plastic bar, and it's time to install the gimbals. Route the speaker cable through the PCB, reattach the flat cable for the LCD. Careful here, needs to go below the battery cables. Now put the PCB back into the shell, and here you'll have to fiddle around a bit until everything from gimbals to trim buttons is aligned again and falls back into place. I used a flat screwdriver again to slide the trim switches into their slots. Now reattach the speaker cable. I use tweezers for that, and let's do a quick first test run to check if everything still works. 1 battery is enough to power on the remote, and yay, it powers on. We can start to screw the PCB back in and put the side rubber grips back in as well. Time to transplant the rubber grips off the back shell. Watch out for the orientation here. And that's pretty much it for the back part. Now connect the 2 shell parts, put in the 4 screws, and hey, back to the super annoying switch nuts. But thankfully it's already the last step here of Operation Nostalgia. And here we have the finished remote. All in all, it was totally worth it, and I'm super happy with the outcome. Actually, I'm planning to make another Nostalgia, this time with a more elaborate paint job though. And if you're interested in what's that gonna look like, feel free to pay me a visit on Instagram. See you in the next one. Take care.